Two guys of Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Reckless speculation.
And a happy Reckless Speculation Thursday to all who celebrate. Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department is here with some scoopage. I'm curious. Sometimes the text thread is it's like a vetting ground for what does and doesn't make it to the actual podcast, because we got to be somewhat responsible here. So, but let's just start with Vikings here, Dukes, because you were digging up a storm yesterday, and this week the NFL Combine is in full swing right now down in Indianapolis. So wherever you want to go, starting with Vikings, you pick a starting spot.
All right. Well, happy Reckless Speculation Thursday. It is the last one of February. We will do our best to make it our best. To me, the headline from what I gathered on Wednesday was the amount of leadership that Kevin O'Connell exudes. That apparently Kwesi Adofo-Mensah was told to multiple people battling some sort of illness. I need to follow up on that part of the equation. Let's hope he's okay. Let's hope he's back to doing business as normal here on Thursday into Friday. They certainly still have many more meetings with agents today and tomorrow. But Wednesday, talking to multiple people that had direct interaction with Kevin O'Connell, I was told he was thoroughly prepared. It wasn't like, hey, Kwesi is down. Last second, Kevin, you need to lead this discussion. He had everything he needed right at his disposal. I'm telling you, articulated what he thinks, what the plan is, or what he hopes the plan will be better than any other general manager did per one person that was in a meeting with KOC. That's just one example, but this person said, hey, I was in meetings with multiple teams, multiple general managers. All their GMs led these meetings. In the Vikings case, it was Kevin O'Connell leading the meeting. And of all the meetings I had on Wednesday, so this was from somebody late last night, this person told me by far the best meeting was with Kevin O'Connell leading the way in the Vikings room. I thought that stood out to me as much as anything.
Yeah.
That is super intriguing.
Can I ask, from what you were told, does that include some of the contractual stuff, or is it mostly like the football related conversations? Like is KOC driving and leading conversations that have to do with contracts, I guess?
No, that's more Rob Brzezinski.
Okay.
Specific numbers, but just his vision, what he's thinking, holes they need to fill, how he'd like to fill those holes. So more from a personnel perspective. And so we can go down the road. We don't know what the language is in his contract extension. We can wonder aloud, absolutely under the reckless speculation umbrella, but like, how much say will he now have? I mean, he's had say, but does he perhaps have more say now with the 53-man roster? We hear it all the time. When Kwesi Adofo-Mensah was at the podium on Tuesday, collaboration, that's a very popular buzzword. But it felt like Kwesi went out of his way to use that word on Tuesday. Can we read between the lines a little bit? We oftentimes need to do that, right? Read between the lines. I'm just wondering, again, wondering aloud. The fact of the matter is KOC was front and center on Wednesday with the caveat that Kwesi was said to be battling an illness. Okay, so would it have maybe been different if Kwesi wasn't sick? Maybe. But this person said, hey, it didn't feel like KOC was told last second, lead this meeting. He was so prepared. That's what stood out to this person. And this person met with the Vikings last year. He just said from last year meeting with the Vikings, 2024 Combine to 2025 Combine, it felt like it was night and day.
This being a Reckless Speculation Thursday, the gloves are completely off, at least for me. So let's start to tie things together now too, because there's no question that KO at times, I think previously has expressed a little bit of frustration about how things are done sometimes, about how, about emphasis, about And this is really intriguing because there's no doubt that we talked about this at the time when his contract was still not done. We said, does he want more control? And that's not, hey, go ahead and take it. That is, I want in my contract that I have more control, because that's how you get it. But, this also lends itself to a very, I think, relevant and potentially reckless speculation conversation about the fact that Kwesi's contract's still not done yet. Like, keep in mind, we all expected, O'Connell, it was a big talking point at the end of the season. When do you get extended? And as our friend Kevin Seifert at the time said, do you want an extension here? And he's like, absolutely. And then he gets it. The Kwesi contract extension still not done, still a little bit odd. Until it's done, you can't just ignore it completely. So I do wonder if we are not necessarily having Kwesi pushed out, but keep in mind too, you guys, and this goes back to something that we've talked about, and I don't feel enough people have glummed on to this. We have no idea privately, internally, how this team runs, because your GM is not a traditional football guy. He is obviously bright. But he is not a traditional football guy. Kevin O'Connell, meanwhile, falls way more into the bin of traditional football guy. So if you told me, Doogs, that this is sort of the start of a little bit of a transition of how things are done, power distributed, I wouldn't be surprised. And what transpired then on Wednesday in Indy sounds very much like, okay, he was sick, but also O'Connell was completely prepared to handle discussions that probably a year ago he didn't get to handle. In other words, very interesting.
Yes. I mean, I'm just telling you, this person said, compared to last year, KOC was way more engaged this time around. But again, how much is different with Kwesi not having been in the room? I will be surprised if the contract extension doesn't get done. That I don't think you put Kwesi at the podium on Tuesday if that thing wasn't anywhere near the finish line. But I do wonder moving forward, what exactly does that collaboration look like? How much more power perhaps does KOC have now or get? And yeah, you're right. We don't actually know. Even going back the last year or two, did KOC perhaps have a little bit more power than we realize? I would say this much, though. For Vikings fans that will consume this discussion, you should be thoroughly happy, thoroughly proud that KOC is front and center for this organization. He completely gets it. Being the face of the franchise, I guess, coaching staff, front office-wise, it makes a ton of sense that it's not Kwesi, it is KOC. I'm just telling you, you talk to so many different NFL personnel people, they are blown away by how impressive KOC is.
Yeah. On the player personnel side, just some internal free agents. The Vikings are down there in Indianapolis, and they're trying to gauge the value, I'm sure, of Byron Murphy Jr. and Cam Bynum. And I told you guys a couple weeks ago, and we've done a bunch of like the Tuesday blueprints and the mock draft simulations and stuff. Jevon Holland is one of the top PFF ranked free agents on the market. He's set to make $15, $20 million a year as a safety, but kind of a hybrid defensive back who can do a lot of different things. And he was drafted, correct me if I'm wrong, by Brian Flores and that regime in Miami. So he's sitting out there as a premier free agent. What are your thoughts on, we'll start with Byron Murphy Jr. and Cam Bynum and some of the external options that, hey, if the price tag gets too high, if we get uncomfortable with the Byron Murphy Jr. conversations or Cam Bynum, here's some names on a free agent list over here that might have ties to the Vikings.
All right, well, I mean, you brought up Jevon Holland. Yeah, I mean, I firmly believe he is absolutely on the Vikings' radar. Yes, the obvious Flores connection. Holland's two best years, one was with Flores, the other in 23, in 24 and 22. So, I don't have PFF grades in front of me. He's young. He has that on his side. He's nearly 22 months younger than Cam Bynum. But let me bring this up. Are we sure that Jevon Holland is markedly better than Cam Bynum? Now, I have no doubt in my mind the contract Holland is about to sign will far trump the contract that Bynum lands. But I'm just saying, as a player, Is Holland worth $4 to $6 million more per year than Cam Bynum? I think we can have a healthy discussion on that. But keep in mind, Holland's representation also represents Antoine Winfield Jr. So Antoine is at the top of the safety market. Then you've got Derwin James. Then you have Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think Holland slots in right under Fitzpatrick, 18 to 19-ish million per year. If you're the Vikings, are you willing to pay that much money to Jevon Holland? I think there's interest. I guess I'll be surprised if the Vikings go that high. The Trey Smith odds are out from a betting site in Missouri. I just got the email this morning.
I got that too. I got that same email. Let's go.
Just some betting site in Missouri.
It's like betmissouri.com or something.
Betmissouri.com, yeah. Now, the betting favorite is Trey Smith back to the Chiefs. But if he leaves the Chiefs, the Vikings are plus 650. Tennessee plus 550. So Tennessee, then the Vikings, then the Bears at plus 800, Houston plus 800, Patriots plus 1,000. Another guy that I believe is on the Vikings' radar. I have a hard time believing they are going to reset the guard market, though, on a Trey Smith contract. Somebody else may. I don't think the Vikings are going to do that. Byron Murphy Jr. remains. I will double/triple down on what I've said going back to Tuesday, and I can't remember if I brought it up in this space last week as well. He is by far the number one internal priority. They so badly want him back. Let's look at the Byron Murphy market. Jalen Ramsey, number one at $24 million per year. Patrick Surtain, number two, right in that ballpark, $24 million a year. Jair Alexander, $21 million. So there's a drop off to number three on the cornerback list. AJ Terrell of Atlanta, $20-ish million. You've got Ward from Cleveland, $20-ish million. Humphrey from Baltimore, $19 million. Diggs from the Cowboys, $19 million. Byron wants to be in that ballpark, 19-ish to 21 million-ish per year. Are the Vikings willing to do that? That remains to be seen. I don't get a sense that firm numbers have been exchanged yet, but the Vikings absolutely know what the market is for Byron Murphy Jr. or what his camp is pursuing. There are a ton of teams. I'll just tell you that right now. I want to sift more through it, but there are a ton of teams expressing enough interest in Byron Murphy Jr. that I think he'll be able to get to that number being like 19-ish. I don't know if he gets to 20-ish per year, but 19-ish per year is realistic for Byron Murphy Jr. Can the Vikings find a happy medium? On Cam Bynum, here's a new nugget on Bynum. The Vikings actually tried to sign him to an extension during the season. So I thought talk stopped heading into week one against the Giants. They re-engaged middle of the season trying to get an extension done. It just speaks to how much the Vikings love Cam Bynum. But the market is going to be there for him. Okay, so we talked about Holland, 18, 19 million slotting in perhaps right under Minkah Fitzpatrick. Okay, well, I think we can get to 14, 15 million a year on Cam Bynum. Are the Vikings willing to do that? Right now, I would say no. I would say the Vikings would need to swing and miss on some other fronts, then circle back to get a deal done with Cam Bynum. I'll continue to say right now, in real time, as I dissect all this information I've gathered, that Cam Bynum will be elsewhere.
It feels like on Murphy and Bynum as well, Doogie, that we've gotten to a point where it would make no sense for them not to at least explore the market when the legal tampering period begins in a couple of weeks. So, because if you're either one of those guys, unless you get blown away, unless the Vikings come to you at the combine and they're like, okay, gloves are off, we will essentially give you what you want. I got to think that we are to a point where, if nothing else, they're going to hit the market. In Murphy's case, it sounds like he's going to be potentially blown away by the suitor. So I got to think we're in murky territory with those two. I've got a question for you guys on Jevon Holland, though, because I've been saying I don't see him paying a safety that much. But as we were talking about, or I texted you guys in the thread last night, am I misreading this? Is potentially pairing Jevon Holland with Josh Metellus, giving you two basically positionless safeties? Because at first I said, well, they've got Josh, so does Jevon prove to be a little bit redundant in skill set? But am I wrong there? And his floor is like, no, I can use both of these guys, and good luck to opponents to figure out exactly what they're going to do and where they're going to be. Is there a possibility that is what at least Flores is trying to push here when it comes to, if nothing else, pursuing Jevon Holland, who's now with the Dolphins?
It's a fascinating point, fascinating idea to think about. I mean, I'm telling you, I firmly believe, interest, right? How would you exactly use him, Phil? Do you have an idea? So if you're paying Jevon Holland in the neighborhood of, maybe it's more like 17-ish, but it's going to be like top 5, top 6 safety money, right below Minkah Fitzpatrick. If you're paying him that much money, how exactly are you using him? And is it more like a freelance type role where it's not your traditional safety look?
Yeah, listen, I will leave the all 22 breakdowns to people smarter than me, but I will tell you that Jevon Holland is one of the most versatile, unique safeties in the NFL. So he plays the last couple of years in Miami, he plays about half of his snaps as a free safety, just, back playing whatever, cover 1, cover 2. But then he also plays, out of the 800 some snaps last year, he played 235 in the box. He played about 3 or 4 up at the line. He played 142 snaps in the slot last year. He also played another 40 snaps lined up as like an outside edge rusher. So there are a lot of he plays back a lot more than Josh Metellus is playing up in the box or around the box or in the slot more often than any safety in the NFL. So yeah, I mean, to Judd's point, and then like the Vikings love to put 3 safeties on the field. So then in theory you would have Harrison Smith and or Theo Jackson, depending on if Harrison Smith comes back. So yeah, as a pass rusher, I think Josh Metellus is going to be unleashed more in that regard. But Jevon Holland is one of the more unique. He's not just going to sit back there as a free safety. Like, he is a guy that you can put all over the place. Perfect fit. You see why Brian Flores and that regime in Miami drafted him back in 2021 with the 36th overall pick.
Yeah, I mean, early second round, right? So, I mean, he was elite coming out of college. And yeah, he's done enough. I just think last year now dealt with an injury, right? So I don't think he had the greatest year entering free agency, but you can make a case that he's fully worthy of $18-ish million per year. You brought up the name Harrison Smith. If the Vikings are aware of what his decision is, they have not verbalized that to anyone in Indianapolis. So my sense is there's still some uncertainty. I'll continue to say, though, more my opinion, I would not be surprised if Harrison Smith says, I have enough football left in me that I want to play a 14th season.
Yeah. We'll get to some more of
and Doogie's. I get it. Contractually, there's a lot of things to figure out. But I'm just saying, on the surface, Harrison Smith playing in 2025 and in all likelihood playing for the Vikings, to me, still makes a good amount of sense.
Yeah. We'll get to more Doogie scoops here, including we got to talk about the feud down in Indianapolis. But Legit Pizza is helping to power these scoops today. Pep's Legit Pizza, or Legit Pizza from Pep's Pizza Company, however you want to phrase it. This is legitimately some of the best frozen pizza, maybe the best frozen pizza I've ever had. We've already had 2 this week in the Mackey household. That's right. That stone-baked, cracker-thin crust, zesty tomato sauce. It is an authentic at-home pizza parlor experience waiting for you. And we like to cut those things into squares like a good Minnesotan. So find Pep's Legit Pizzas at a store near you in the frozen section. Judd, MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air also along for the ride here during Reckless Speculation season.
Definitely are. And guess what, folks? So on Tuesday, Sports Dad had Joe come out to his house to check out the heating, the furnace at the estate, and that was in great shape. On Wednesday, Nick came out from the plumbing side. Let's just say this old guy at estate, not in as good a shape. It's time for a new water softener and heater. And I'm going to go with fine folks at MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air, because I know that I can trust them. I know that everybody needs a guy, and they are my guy, because trust is the most important thing. 100% family-owned and operated business that's committed to taking care of you and your family, which means making sure that your home is safe. That is incredibly important. And how about this? MSP giving away a free furnace this month. Book a $49 furnace tune-up, and you will be entered to win a free furnace. You must enter, by the way, in the remaining days of this month. If you want somebody that you trust, the most important thing, right? MSP for service, give them a call, 651-615-4292, or just check out their website, callmsp.com. Call MSP.com. They're so good that I even remembered Joe and Nick's names.
Wow,
that's how much you can rely on what they're going to provide you.
Wow, look at you.
Reckless speculation.
So Adam Schefter with the tweet of the week. He tweets a picture of the Starbucks sign inside the convention center with head on a swivel. And if you were following along on the internet yesterday, and we'll go over much more of this in depth on Purple Daily too, because it does apply to Sam Darnold in a kind of a roundabout sense. But Jordan Schultz, who is the son of longtime former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz, he is an NFL insider for Fox and Fox Sports 1, and he reported that Raiders minority owner Tom Brady recently hosted Matthew Stafford at his home in Montana. And he adds that several teams are interested in Stafford if the Rams decide to trade him, with Vegas believed to be the most aggressive suitor. Wow, just a couple of quarterbacks in the mountains in Montana talking about a possible career change here. Ian Rappaport jumped in and tried to clarify, on behalf of the league or the Raiders or Brady or whoever, and said they did indeed run into each other at a ski resort in Montana, but the meeting was unplanned. They both were just in Montana. They both have like third houses or whatever in the mountains in Montana. It was not Brady hosting or recruiting Stafford, despite reports saying otherwise. So Jordan Schultz, ironically, confronted Ian Rappaport in a Starbucks. And apparently it got really heated and contentious for a couple minutes and super awkward. So there's a lot to unpack here, but all of this does apply to Sam Darnold, because it kind of feels like, and you tell me, Doogs, the Stafford domino has to fall first, because he is, even though he's not a free agent, he is the premier available quarterback right now for a couple different teams. And once that domino falls, then you'll know if the Raiders are an option for a tag and trade. You'll know if the Rams have an opening at quarterback, right?
Agree. I mean, I don't know how you go far down the road like we have here, where the Rams have granted Stafford, his representation, permission to seek out a potential new home, then run it back. Now, to me, it's baffling. If I'm the Rams, like, what are you doing? Like, your Super Bowl window is open right now.
Yeah.
Like, how are you doing better than Matthew Stafford? But I just don't know how, after all this, you then go back to Kumbaya. I don't know how that happens. Maybe it does. It seems like Stafford is going to be elsewhere. Now, if you're the Vikings, I think you're rooting for him to end up with the Giants, not the Raiders. That frees up the Raiders then for Sam Darnold. There's still going to be a healthy Sam Darnold market. Let's say the domino is, okay, Stafford to Vegas, Aaron Rodgers then to the Rams. Well, there's still the Steelers, the Titans. There's enough suitors that there is going to be a market. The question is, can the Vikings figure out a potential trade, franchise tag, instant trade by March 4th? I mean, that deadline of next Tuesday is fast approaching. Is there enough time between now and then, or is Stafford holding everything up where the Vikings aren't going to be able to do it? Then Darnold just hits the market, and the Vikings hopefully will get some sort of compensatory pick in 2026.
That's intriguing too. Now, I saw a report about this when it came to the just coincidental fact that Brady and Stafford ran into each other in the mountains. But I don't think the Rams ever gave permission for personal recruiting. Like, there's a difference between you can talk to my representatives and
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yes. Brady is just
Sure.
like, hey, Matthew Stafford, why don't you come to my house and we'll enjoy a meal? So there's some hanky stuff here as well.
Well, that's where there's some damage control, right? With Brady's agent going on the record.
And a league reporter.
Yeah.
Two of them. Pelissero got Don Yee on the record.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Rappaport came in.
That's Brady's longtime agent. Yeah. So you're right. It may have gone a bit further than it was supposed to. Okay, so yes, and that's where Schultz and Rappaport, I mean, my God. I mean, just classic. Now the NFL is investigating the situation. NFL
the
security.
league's security arm.
The whole thing
I'm telling you right now, the Combine, Dukes, is the greatest thing of all time. The Combine is the greatest thing. The Combine is where after Schefter had that really weird report when Favre joined the team, I think it was actually 2010, but by then, where Schefter reported that there was what, dissension? What was the word?
A schism.
A schism. And so Schefter's walking through the lobby of where the Combine is at the time, and Ziggy Wilf comes up to him and says, "Where's your schism?" or something like. I mean, it's just the gloves are just off. It's a week of. They should really telecast just a straight feed of all of the stuff at the Combine that has nothing to do with the actual Combine itself.
I'm with you. Or set up a camera at the steakhouse. Is it St. Elmo's? Right.
Yeah.
So
St. Elmo's. Yeah.
Think about the Ben Dogger stories. Is Ben still a certified agent? I don't even know.
I haven't heard of him in a long time. That's a good point.
I have from Ben going back years. I mean, my God. But Ben was with who? Adrian Peterson. I mean, Ben's client list was off the charts for a long time. Some of the back and forth him and Rob Brzezinski have had. I mean, there are some epic stories from Indianapolis.
Yeah. Dukes, let's empty out the rest of your scoop bag here before we say goodbye. The Twins did send out an official email this morning, and I'll summarize it. Monday is the day that Dave St. Peter officially transitions after 22 years as team president to kind of a consultant role. And Derek Falvey becomes, and they put this even in the press release, the first person in franchise history, 65 years, to oversee as top man baseball operations and business operations. So the most powerful man in Twins history on Monday becomes Derek Falvey.
Yes, and I mean, it's not like he's spending all of spring training in Fort Myers. I mean, he's bouncing back and forth pretty good. And so he is ready to go. I will tell you, you talk to enough people internally at Target Field, others are going to have their roles elevated. So yes, Derek has the fancy title. We're wondering how he got all this power, the most power in the history of the Twins organization. But, again, popular buzzword, collaboration. I'm just telling you, he's going to lean on others, names that people don't know, don't necessarily need to know on the business side of things, but others are going to have their roles elevated, more so now compared to under Dave St. Peter. Can I circle back to the Vikings, 2 other Vikings notes? So Milton Williams is absolutely on their radar. I don't think I'm breaking news on that. We're thinking about solving the interior of both lines. Milton Williams, Philadelphia Eagles, free agent, defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman. He is absolutely on the Vikings' radar. Mekhi Blackmon, fully cleared. So it's not like he needs to do a whole lot right now, but think about come April, OTAs, the ramp-up of offseason activities, Mekhi Blackmon, good to go. So that is really good news for a cornerback that should be able to help the Vikings again here in 2025. Back to Kwesi, by the way, on the contract extension. How did nobody ask him the question? I get it. It's a circus, but I'm shocked the question didn't come up. How come you haven't signed an extension yet? I still think it's going to get done, but I thought that was interesting that the question never came up on Tuesday. But yeah, back to the Twins, Phil. I'm telling you, Falvey's been preparing behind the scenes for a while on this. So sure, we get the press release. Sure, it's a talker that this thing is starting Monday, but I don't think a whole lot is going to change instantly on Monday.
Okay. Be interesting because then someone else maybe is going to buy the team at some point and reevaluate everyone's position in leadership. So,
well, I mean, they still need to get to the price point, the poll ads, that they are seeking. Remember, the initial press release had the word exploration. Maybe I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but the idea of exploring a sale process, not executing a sale process. So if they don't get the number they are seeking, I continue to think it's in the vicinity or north of what the Orioles sold for in the last, 12 to 18 months, 1.71, 1.72 billion, 1.73 billion. I don't think the poll ads are selling the Twins, for example, for 1.4 billion or 1.5 billion. So it's still a process. They need to get to that number. So just keep that in mind. It could change with one new phone call, right? Greenberg is running the show out in New York. And so, this thing is being filtered through that company. I'm just saying, like, they need to get to that number before we see any sort of serious movement. I don't even know if Ishbia, he had made all these phone calls, had done all this due diligence, but I don't even know if he was willing to get to that 173. I presume he was, but I don't know that for sure. So just remember that this could still be a while, but one new call, one new inquiry, it could change fast too.
No. Darren Doogie Wolfson.
On the Wolves, I was curious if they tried to get Jalen Clark on a Naz Reid type contract. So we know that Jalen Clark, it was inevitable. I mean, heck, Jalen Clark is a rotation guy. Of course, you're going to want him for the playoffs. So you were always going to convert him. That is not any sort of surprise. But I was curious, did they seek out a team option for, I guess it would be what, the 26-27 season and the 27-28 season? The answer is no. So Jalen is signed for the rest of this year, then next year on a minimum contract. I mean, you think about next year, having him for the minimum as a rotation guy, that is a fantastic move. Logical move, not a hard move to execute, but still very good move. But the Wolves did not seek out any sort of team option beyond next season. On Bones Highland on the two-way, there is hope. Like, Bones has played his best with Tim Connolly in charge. That Bones wants to be here. The contract, the two-way is for the rest of the year, okay? So he hits the market again this summer. But Bones wants to be here long-term. When thinking about Mike Conley Jr.'s future, does he play just one more year? There's a lot of moving parts with the backcourt, right? Especially the point guard position. I'm just saying Bones Highland hopes to make this a long-term home.
It's interesting. Yeah, he's intriguing. He's intriguing. All right, Doogie.
Well, I mean, I think the Dillingham comp is Bones Highland, right? In many ways,
it is.
And
well, hopefully a better version. Hopefully,
sure. Although you would take rookie Bones Highland.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you would, right? I mean, Bones Highland's best year was his rookie year. You would, I think, take that.
Yeah,
Maybe you need a little bit more.
Bones peaked as a rookie, so hopefully there's
with Rob a little bit more, helping out his teammates, right? Shot creation for others. Maybe a little bit more of that. Not all the scoring, but Bones' by far best year was in Denver, his rookie year.
Yeah. All right, folks. Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department. And
did we mention, Judd, have you brought up, I mean, not that it's some sort of shock, but okay, so Lou Nanny no longer doing boys state hockey. State hockey begins, next Wednesday. So it's a combination. When thinking about filling the Lou Nanny shoes in the booth, it'll be a combination of Ben Clymer, Mark Parrish, and Kevin Gorg. Happy that Gorgie is a part of the 45 TV family next week. So it'll be a rotating combination with those three guys filling the shoes of Lou Nanny next week.
Nobody asked Judd. Nobody asked Judd from downstairs, huh?
No, I mean, I've been upstairs all week. All I had to do was walk up a few steps and say, "Do you want to work a tournament game with honesty, with reckless speculation, with criticism?" But I was not asked.
No, maybe next year, Judd.
That's an atrocious breakdown by Smith there. I'd cut him. JV next season.
Did you see the video of the young man from Hibbing, a 9th grader, on our ABC affiliate up in Duluth, WDIO? So they're televising the Hibbing section final.
I saw it.
They were playing Cloquet, Esco, one of those hyphenated, joint, co-ops and all that. But anyway, Hibbing wins the game. Kid drops an F-bomb. It was epic. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
We're just in the moment, right? Pure emotion. So it was good stuff. I don't think WDIO was anticipating needing to use the dump button with a 9th grader, but there we were late last night post game. I assume the game was at Amsoil Arena, but that was pretty funny. Remind me, we'll get into Ben Johnson's future next week.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Thanks, dudes.
Okay. All right, dudes.
Right,
good stuff. Happy Reckless Speculation Thursday to you and all who celebrate. See you guys.